It's your boy Young Grizzly with another lakeside chat. It's really a pond, but bitch is big enough to be a lake. Fuck y'all. And that is how we open a video. I was just talking to a friend and I came up with a pretty good analogy, and I wanted to share that with everyone so they can understand what higher amounts of income really means for a lot of people. And it's not just you could buy more things or afford more things. It's all about access, right? And that's kind of one of the biggest things is access. So talking to this friend, and I'm just talking about like, okay, hey, listen, if you make more money, say for instance, you make a $250,000 a year, you're looking at, and I'm gonna probably put the link in the description for this website. It's like, you know, you could kind of rate or see where you stand in terms of earning and like amongst all Americans. So if you make a $250,000, you're looking at being in the top 1.6% of Americans. So you're a 1.6%er if you're making about a $250,000, right? So that means you make more than 98.4% of all Americans, or more than all Americans in the U.S., right? And that's based off of the 2019 salary data, and I'll put that link in the description of the video. Anyways, with that being said, I talked to him and I came up with the analogy of doors. So you're making 20, 30K. Well, you got one door. You're paying your expenses. You're getting by, maybe living paycheck to paycheck, depending on your living situation, if you're living with somebody, or depending on, you know, also where you're living. You know, the cost of, what's it called? Not the cost of ownership, but what do they call that thing again, man? When it's your standard of living, right? Depending on the standard of living in your area. So that's just one door. Now you start making $40,000, $50,000 a year, or even $60,000, $70,000 a year. Depending on where you live in America, you could probably afford a decent or a modest home, especially if you're doing that. Say for instance, you're the breadwinner and you're making $60,000 and your wife is making another $30,000 or something like that. Wife's significant other, whoever you're shacked up with, or even if you got a roommate or something like that. And then, you know, they're just kind of offsetting the cost of your mortgage because they're paying maybe $500 to $600 worth of rent for a room, right? So you have all these things. You're doing these things. You have like combined income if you're with another person and you're sharing the load, or you have an offset of income or offset of expenses because you're working because you're living with somebody's living with you. So now you have 2 to 3 doors open, right? Door 1 is your expenses. Door 2 is you possibly getting a home, right? And you can afford that home. Door 3 is you getting a nicer vehicle, right? Or maybe even door 2 is getting a nicer vehicle so that you can get better jobs, be in different places, and have reliable transportation, or reliable on-demand transportation. You know, like in my area, there's no fucking Uber. They were lucky to get DoorDash up to a couple years ago. So that's like a big thing, is to have reliable transportation. Even if it's an old beat up pickup truck, it's still better than most. And you know, speaking of that, like you can't really see it, but you can kind of see it a little bit. Like the Chevy emblem on the back of the truck, I put like, it's usually just like stamped in there, and I put the little thing on it, so it looks a lot better. It's pretty freaking cool. I love it. Nice little touch. Like $20 for those like raised sticker emblems, whatever the things are. It's a freaking piece of plastic with like tape on the back. So now you have a nicer vehicle, right? And again, that truck works into it. The lake works into it. The dog is like, it's all a part of this stuff because I have more doors available to me. I have more doors that I can access. I can afford a dog that costs $1,800. I can afford a truck that costs $76,000. I can afford a building that's $12,000. I can afford this property and its monthly mortgage of about $1,441 a month. Even with PMI and all that other stuff, because I have more doors open, right? Now, you don't want to open them all at once, which is something that I do, but I don't know how, but, you know, I get away with it, but it's mainly because I work very hard, but I don't always get away with it for long, so you always have to be careful, always have to be disciplined, and, you know, if you get out of whack, you know, tighten up, straighten back out, you know, so I do that very often, and I have to straighten myself out. But you have more doors available to you when you're getting $75,000, $90,000. Okay, so at $90,000, Now you're looking at things like, okay, I could take more vacations with the family. I could start having a family is one thing. And, you know, like paying for cleats and sports and other activities and after school stuff and blah, blah, blah. Paying for a higher food bill, paying for a car note, paying for things like, okay, getting the child ready for college and everything else like that. So paying for all of those things, now you have, that's another door that you have. And you can go on and on and on. At different levels of income, you have more doors. You have more availability and access to certain things. Now, I can think, like I was sending my friend a screenshot, because, you know, when you start making more money, you start doing that nigga shit, and you be like, I'm going to just start looking at, I'm going to look at a Mercedes and all this other stuff, and like, yo, this is affordable, $2,000 a fucking month for a damn car note. But it's like, yo, your dumbass is going, this is affordable. But you have that door available to you if you want to go through it. But the point is, what if I said you can have delayed gratification and you don't go through that door, but you go through this door over here, which says get more property, get more investments, get things that will pay that car note for you, so that you can open up that door, and that door, and so on and so forth. And you have a better view, right? You know, all these different doors lead to different views. Or you could think of these doors as doors in a hallway or a home, and that home, as your money increases, or the money increases for your household, whether it be yourself or your significant other or whatever your financial offsets are, businesses and so on and so forth. Now I'm thinking about, like, okay, in the back of my property, I'll probably still get that 60-foot or that 80-foot building back there in the little clearing that I have, like right there, and put that building back there and start something, a residential services company. Now I can start thinking about getting lawnmower equipment or lawn equipment, getting equipment for cleaning, and getting trucks and vans and all types of other stuff, and start running all that stuff from my property here, right? It's like, these are possibilities that I can actually do, where I have the access to do those things. So this is that's the importance of, you know, doing what you can to make more money, maximize your time, put yourself in a better position, and do what you can to improve your situation. And a lot of people don't see it that way. They just see it as, okay, the material things that they can get, you know, the nice wind chime, the flowers, the plants, you know, the things that will make them live in better comfort. You know, it's like they think of the stuff that sadly is, I want to say simple, but for a lot of people, it is out of their reach. They don't always have that. Their AC breaks down. They're going to be hot for a couple weeks until they get paid for X, Y, and Z job. Getting heat blisters in the middle of your arm, your forearm here, and too much of my feet. We ain't selling feet pics. I probably should, though. That's another door that could be open. But I remember that happened to me, and like having that right there in that crevice where I was like, it was crazy, you know. That's just the life we lived, and it wasn't. I mean, it was a middle class lifestyle. But some things broke down, and you know, how can you pay for a 4-ton AC unit, you know, like just out of nowhere, not planning for that expense? I understand that my parents handled it well, and it's not like we were dying for a long period of time. Some nights were hot, you know, but you know, we made it through it, right? But it's just like, now I look at my current life and current lifestyle, and I'm like, I'm not going through that. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that I have access, you know, I have doors open available to me, to where I don't have to live that type of life. So it's like, you know, whether you're making your 60 to $250,000 to 300 grand, $500,000, even more, it's like you can get to that. You have to understand at each point, or each one of those points, in terms of income, or each one of those levels of income or tiers, you have more access. And it's up to you to make sure that you use that access properly. You do things to put yourself in an always advantageous position. So I wanted to talk about that really quickly. And you know me, I always go on tangents and stuff like that and talk about other stuff. But I think it's very important. That's the only thing about this house. It's like, you know, this road is like semi-busy, especially during the school year. Jesus. So I get a lot of noise. Maybe I should like build a house back there, but that's another door that could be open later on in life. Anyways, but it's not really that bad. You like you can hear more crickets and all types of other stuff, especially the frogs at night. The frogs be going wild. But yeah, access, very important stuff, and thinking about the best way that you can not just gain that access, not just maintain that access, but really to expand and grow your access. And that access could be more travel, that could be more buying more materialistic things, that could be starting new businesses, that could be getting a dog, getting other stuff done. Like I want to get a gazebo out there. I've talked about that in quite a few videos. I've already talked to the guy about the pricing on that, so that's in the works and seeing what that's going to cost. But our job really as men, especially men in this space, is not to just improve our current situation, but to improve the current situation for those around us, who are working within our framework and our desired path and are helping us achieve that goal. With that being said, thank you as always. Love you all. Appreciate you. And always trying to find a way to gain more access, open up more doors, not just for other people, but especially for yourself.